Hey guys, well, we have quite a rare occurrence here, and that is that actually in England you have a clear blue sky. The weather is sunny, it's warm out here, I'm wearing shorts. But what I kind of wanted to do is, whilst I'm here, talk about a few things that might make you think in a different way. So behind me you can see a street of semi-detached houses. If you're not from the UK, you might have a different term for it, but for here, it's basically two houses joined together. And this is the street that I've lived for many, many years. Now, the average value of a house in the UK to this point is around 300,000. Now, this street varies between I would say 250 to 350. You kind of compare that to wages. It's non-comparable really, because the average salary in the UK, I haven't really checked, but I would say it's probably around 25,000 a year. Well, basically, wherever you are in the world, maybe you're in another Western country, it probably is a similar kind of story where, you know, first-time buyers will very much struggle to buy a house because the value of the houses is so high. Not only that, you pile on things like council tax, having your vehicles, having all your utility bills, and all that kind of stuff that's on top, which basically leaves you with nothing at the end of the month. Now, what this does is adds more and more chains onto yourself. So say you live with your mum and dad, you then take the leap to buy a house, you then buy a car and all this kind of stuff. Every time you take on these finances, you then add a chain to yourself, which means that you are no longer free as a person. The more finances you take on yourself, the less free you are. The more you put yourself in a cage, the less likely you are to take any risks. And this is where the elites or whoever runs the world wants you. They want you in a position where you may not want to take risks, and that you worry about taking risks, and that you stay in a comfortable place. You know, they make it easily kind of brainwashed everyone to have this lifestyle where everyone has certain things. It costs a lot of money. You then get stuck in the area. You're then paying the same amount of bills, and you're just bred to work, basically. You know, this is very smart kind of brainwashing. You know, people fall into it because it's attractive, isn't it? It's attractive to have your own house. It's attractive to have a nice car. It's attractive for all these kind of things. Bigger house, bigger car, get a better salary, you know, get promotion, buy a better car, upscale your house, add more chains to yourself. Yeah, you might earn more, but your expenses are more, which then basically keeps you in the same place as you were previously. Well, yeah, whether or not people understand that, I'm sure they're kind of aware of it in some kind of respect. They chase it, but they don't really know why they're chasing it. Now, I had to just bring all this up to start with, just because I thought about these things deeply. You know, I thought about the way that lifestyle functions. I thought about the way that everyone just does the same thing. And I just questioned the narrative and thought, why? Why is this the way that we have to live our life? Why is this the way that everyone lives their life in this country? Like, why is that the reason? And I just couldn't understand it. I couldn't understand it. When I was really struggling with my mental health, I went for a counselling, and I kind of sort of just explained my point of view on the world and how I felt like I was in a bubble in this country, and why everyone just sort of aims for that nice house and two cars on the drive, and that's pretty much it. And it's just kind of swapping, taking finance on and basically chopping and changing until the day you die, you know? It's a lifestyle I never really truly understood for a long while, and this grated on me. It's grated on me massively, along with doing a job that didn't necessarily fulfill me. I was spending many hours of my day building it up with, you know, minimal enjoyment, thinking in the end, what comes in the end? I get this really, really maybe nice house. I get this really, really nice car. But at the end of the day, I'm still living in this same way that everyone else lives in this country. And I just was like, I don't know, but I just can't do this anymore. I can't do this anymore. So my decisions then was thinking deeply about it and thinking, how can I tackle this? How can I live a different life? How can I make a life that makes more sense to me? And the answers came to me in a way of thinking, you know, when the whole cough kind of pandemic happened, we were all shocked to many things, and we were like witnessing big price growths with, you know, our electrics, our gas, X, Y, and Z because of certain things. You know, the war contributed to that. But this was all kind of manipulation on a greater scale that, in the end, us as civilians have zero control on, right? So what I learned from this situation and what I learned about the lifestyle I was living is that if I choose to take on the same route as everyone else, taking on a mortgage, taking on car payments and everything else that comes with it, and paying for all my energy, X, Y, and Z, then that leaves room to be manipulated. The more change you've got to yourself, the more tied down you are, the more room you have to be manipulated by the elites, by higher powers. So how do you get around this? You might like say, well, what's the ways around it then? What's the ways around it? Well, the way around it, as I thought, is like, this doesn't maybe mean that you need to move countries, but in many aspects, if you live in the westernized world, it might mean you have to in order to achieve your goal. For me, I had to move country to achieve my goal, to achieve a lifestyle that I wanted. Now, let's try and compare it to the lifestyle I have now and what I want to achieve. Okay, so you buy a house in a village in a European country, and it costs a fragment of what it costs to buy, well, very much cheaper than it costs to buy one over here. Okay, so what comes with that? You have a house that's detached. You have land around you. You can make noise. You can live more freely without thinking about your neighbors constantly, thinking, oh, I want to play some music in my garden, but I can't really do that because I might annoy the neighbors. And you always feel uncomfortable. You don't feel free, such. Here, you can buy a house, be mortgage free, and have the freedom.
YouTube video.
Yeah.
Can I say hi? Life in Croatia, life in Cage. Subscribe, like and subscribe.
Yeah.
Come on.
I've lost my thought then. It's the first time that's ever happened. So basically, yeah, you buy a house, you've got like minimal or zero mortgage to pay. That basically frees you up a lot. And if you think that you're paying potentially 100k on that average house for the rest of your life to pay the interest, just to pay the interest, and you buy a mortgage-free house and you don't have that anymore, for a start, that is a massive load off your mind. You're then not tied down to thinking, shit, I have to pay the mortgage, right? So saving up, being able to put yourself in that position where you can buy a house outright. Number two is making your utilities not just governed and manipulated by the people above you. So how can you do that? Number one, with your electrics, I'm sure you're aware, you can put a lot of solar panels on. Obviously in a country like this, it's probably not the most efficient. But in a place like Croatia, where you have probably 70% of the time sun, or maybe even more, then that is worthwhile, okay? You may not produce all the kilowatts you need, but as long as, you know, you're making movements towards that, or making enough to kind of power your house to a certain extent, then it always helps. But the fact of the matter is, you know, even the World Economic Forum has warned people that it could be turning your electrics potentially off. We might have a crisis where all the electrics goes off in the world, right? Because they like to tell you things that they're going to do. So if this comes to a reality, you, instead of being in mass panic, you can be like, I've still got electrics, doesn't affect me. See, this is the power you have. Next is your water. Now, whether it's legal here, may not be legal here, but in Croatia it is. You can drill for your own water. So you have a water table underneath your land. You can drill into that water and get fresh, clean water, dependent, whether it's fresh or clean, obviously needs testing, but free water for the rest of your life. Not dependent on anyone again. So maybe one day something might enter the water, you know, the masses may not have control on that. Whereas, again, you can say, well, not my problem. So there's your electrics, there's your water, what's left? The next is to warm your house up, right? So, obviously gas, most people have gas here, they all rely on gas. Guess what happened? Nord Stream 2 got blown up. Not by the Russians, but by someone else that we all very much know, that are taking zero accountability for it. Probably created the biggest terrorism of all time, biggest climate problem of all time. But, you know, we're just going to ignore that. We're just going to ignore the fact that that ever fucking happened. That happened quite openly. And guess what? Prices of gas go up. Now, that's the only way you're going to heat up your house. Again, you're manipulated. You are under the control of the higher power. Again, and what can you do about it? Absolutely nothing. Absolutely nothing. You can't do anything about it. So how do you tackle this again? Well, if you live in the sticks, if you live in the countryside, you can chop down your own wood. You can light your own fires. You have a wood burning stove. You could have a machine that creates pellets for you. You could have a pellet burning stove. Potentially air conditioners that run off your solar that could heat up your house. You could have electric radiators that are off the solar that could heat up your house. At that point, again, guess what? Gas prices go up. Not my problem, mate. Not my problem again. And this creates you to be self-sufficient. This creates you to be immune to anything happening in the world. And there you go. So the next thing that you potentially need to think about is what I've stated before. It's about location freedom. Now, the reason why this is important is because if you live in the countryside, people work in the city for what reason? Because they want a job, right? So they don't tend to live in the countryside because they want to live in the city because it's got more opportunity, right? Well, you create a job for yourself where you can work from anywhere in the world, whether it's on a beach, which is highly impractical, by the way, whether it's in the countryside, or how you're going to do about internet. You can get Starlink, which is a good thing. You could live in Bali if you wanted to, live wherever. But that just means that, like, if something happens in the city, again, not my problem. As you saw during cough cough, everyone that had physical jobs, such as in the fitness industry, they very much struggled, you know, to keep going. So it's always about diversifying. Hi, Si.
You all right?
How you doing?
Yeah, good, thank you.
Good, good. It's about diversifying and taking control back to yourself as much as possible. Like I said, maybe it doesn't necessarily mean you need to change country, but it might mean that you need to work towards a certain lifestyle that can give you those freedoms. I just need to explain my reason about what this whole uncaged thing is, what the goals are with it, and hopefully I can inspire some of you to potentially open your eyes and wake up to what's happening around you. I know sometimes maybe some of these things that I say are potentially extreme. Some of these things can maybe be taken out of context. But at the end of the day, if you aren't moving towards these certain things, then you really think what's happened now isn't going to happen again, isn't going to happen in a worse way. You really think there isn't going to be another thing that happens badly in the world now that they've tested it and it works. I think you'd be very naive to just put this under the carpet and pretend it never happened, like very much many people have. Hope you found this valuable. Please subscribe to my channel and like the video, as it helps the algorithm get round and I can help more people and I can make more videos for you guys. So, see you later.